welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. It's really great to have you with me. My name is Violet Newby. This is episode number 271, The Frustrations of Life. Oh, believe you me, I've had some of these lately. In the last couple of weeks, I have made a 600 plus mile move from the deep south up to the southeast. Where do I begin in telling you how crazily adventuresome these last few weeks have been? So I had to get my roof repaired as the result of a hurricane, and I knew that my sub-roofing, or what roofers call decking, had been damaged. I warned the guys, don't walk along the edge, because down the slope of the roof where all the water ran, I suspected that was where the greatest amount of damage was. I'm sitting in my living room studying, and all of a sudden, blam! A big roofing boot comes crashing through my ceiling with dirt and nails, wood, debris, oh, and some really horrific insulation all over my desk. And I was in the middle of moving, so into a bunch of boxes and a gaping hole in my ceiling with daylight shining through. It's like, okay. That was just a guy walking, so they told me. Less than 15 minutes later, I'm still sitting there, and they had taken the roofing off, so they were getting ready to pull off the decking that was damaged. Instead of using a crowbar or the claw part of a hammer, a guy just decided he'd be super cool and jammed his foot there, and down through my ceiling comes a guy almost up to his hips. And now there is a 52-inch by 28-inch hole. I have a new skylight in my ceiling, and I cannot tell you the amount of debris and insulation that came with that one. Yeah, really exciting times. They told me someone would come and repair it that day. No one came. The next day, a young man came. He couldn't speak English. And I'm going to be very truthful with you. He knew nothing about drywall, or about sheetrock, or about mud, or about any of the things it was going to take to repair that. So I still have a big mess in my other place down south. Yes, let's talk about a little frustrating. Oh, and the piece of cake that goes on top of that is they sent me the bill yesterday to the tune of going on $6,000 more when they did not take care of my ceiling problem yet. Yeah, that could be frustrating, just so you know. A couple days later, I was on my way going somewhere, and a guy pulled me off the road and he said, ma'am, I need you to look at your rear right tire because it's going flat. In 10 or 15 minutes, you're going to be sitting along the side of the street if you don't go get that taken care of. And so in the midst of a whole lot of busyness and other people waiting for me at my house and the other things I needed to take care of, I got to go get a tire repaired. Why did I need to get that tire repaired? Because there was a roofing nail in my tire. Yes, let's talk about frustration. Okay. Life has a lot of frustration. You can have great plans laid out. You can make really good decisions. You can be a well-organized person. You can have help. You can everything. But you cannot possibly prepare for every eventuality. And I kid you not. There is always going to be something that's going to come up. That can't be helped. It really can't. I would have never predicted that a guy's boot is going to come flying through my living room ceiling, and I certainly could not have predicted that practically half a man was going to come flying through my living room ceiling with a massive chunk of it taken out because of that guy's carelessness. I couldn't have predicted that. And neither can you. You just have no idea what might happen on any given day. For example, I sat down here a number of hours ago now to begin to record, and we got a telephone call that a person that we all love had had a really bad episode. In fact, didn't have a heart rate and wasn't breathing, that kind of a severe episode, and was on their way to the emergency room. And so we went there, except she wasn't there in that emergency room. And thankfully, because I'm a nurse, I was able to speak to various people to find out that her ambulance had in fact been diverted to another hospital almost 20 miles away because the hospital where she was supposed to be originally treated had a broken CAT scan, and they couldn't do a CAT scan on her without that machine. And she needed it because they suspected that she'd had a stroke. Yes, let's talk about frustration. Suddenly you're in the right place, but they're not in the right place. Things have changed and no one is allowed to tell you legally because of HIPAA restrictions. Yeah, I'm just telling you. Every day of your life, crazy, ridiculous, absurd, frustrating things happen to you. Life has a lot of frustration. Okay, let's put it into a smaller scale to me, but this is your whole life, Mom. This is your entire life, Dad, and I get that. Let's put it here. So you're supposed to be going to your mom's and your dad's for dinner, we'll say on a Saturday for a barbecue. And you wake up and one of the kids gets up and they go, "Oh man, I really feel," and they throw up all over everything. And okay, yeah. So you've been planning this for a month and a half. It's really tough because everybody's so busy. And now suddenly here's this one of your children sick as a dog. So you got to clean all this mess up. You're probably going to miss this dinner, or part of your family's going to get to go. Someone's got to stay home with the sick child. It's like, yeah, no joke. This is frustrating as all get out. I understand that. Wait till you're standing in the middle of a store. I love this one because it's so real about what goes on with kids. We lived next door to an older lady that was pretty mean to my children. She thought they were very active boys, which they were. They really were. And she didn't like it. So she was perpetually complaining to me, couldn't I keep my kids quieter? Oh, no, not when they're outside. Kids are supposed to be noisy outside, and boys are supposed to be rambunctious outside. That way, when they come in the house, they can be calm. What do you know? So, no, I wasn't going to quiet them down outside. She worked at a store in Wisconsin called Shopko. So we needed to go to Shopko. I think one of my kids needed shoes for school. And we walk in the door, and she was kind of like the greeter, like they have nowadays at Walmart. And she's like, "Hello, welcome to Shopko," when she saw my sons. And my son started to walk up to her, and he turned around just in 20 seconds or less, all kinds of green in the gills, and he goes, "Mom, I think I'm gonna." And he did. All over the place. They had spaghetti that day at lunch. I have to tell you, I really did stand there and laugh. I just thought it was so utterly hysterical that this person who has been perpetually horrible to my children was the person who got to witness this. Call that twisted, but it was really actually kind of funny. Uh, I wasn't all that frustrated, except for the fact that my other son didn't get his shoes that day. I took him in the bathroom. I cleaned them all up before we went back out in the car. I offered to help clean things up front, but they told me no, I didn't really need to do that. I had to take my kids home, so of course, the entire complexion of my day changed radically right at that point and forward from there. Yeah, those things happen all the time. No kidding. Kids fall down and break their arm. You think you're on vacation, it's going to be amazing, and your kid falls on a rock and ends up with a broken arm and in a cast, and nothing about what you thought was going to happen is going to happen from that time forward. And those are bigger frustrations, but they are perpetual little frustrations. Mom, I forgot. Tomorrow we're having a bake sale. I need cookies. But it's 8:35 at night. Your kid's supposed to be in bed at 8:30, and you were planning on getting to bed early tonight because you have a big presentation tomorrow. Just let's be real. There are perpetual frustrations all the time. If you don't know how to deal with frustration, or if you're lousy at dealing with frustration, man, your life is going to be rough. I mean, with a capital R rough. Because then every person around you is going to feel your with your frustration, and they're going to get worse and worse, especially your spouse and your children. You're just signing up to make your own life miserable. It's the truth. So how do you deal with frustration? Excellent question. Let's talk about this. First of all, you admit to yourself and maybe to the universe, frustrating things are going to happen. Like, just be realistic about this. If you, oh, I'm expecting a perfect day. Well, welcome to reality. You're not going to have one. I mean, seriously, how many perfect days have you ever had in your entire life, right? Things happen. So acknowledge frustration. It's going to happen. There are going to be unexpected, unwelcome, uninvited events in your world, big and small. And so frustrations, they're going to come. Don't act all shocked when it happens to you. Be prepared. It will happen. Then have a game plan. Okay, so we don't get to do this. We really planned on this. We were going to go to mom and dad's for dinner. We were going to have this amazing vacation. Now we're in the emergency room. We're dealing with a kid with a cast on his arm. He can't go swimming. Just, yeah, come up with a game plan. If that game plan means we're all going to stay home and play games together because this one is sick, or if that game plan means mom and this child that's sick are going to get to watch Disney Channel or movies or play games together all day while the rest of us go do what we had originally planned. Okay, that's a game plan. It might not be the original one where everyone was going to have time together. Sometimes you have to change the original plan. And that's the third thing, be flexible. Because if something really does go south or sideways, you have no control over that. I planned on getting my roof done, getting my house packed up, and moving on. That isn't what happened. And oh my gracious, my ceiling still isn't correctly repaired. I've still got to go back when I'd like to be finished with all of it. But I lost 2 days to other people's unnecessary lack of skill. I guess I use that language. Uh, and I still have to deal with it. That's just something that has to happen. You have to have enough flexibility to say, this is what I had originally planned. This is what I was really hoping for. This is, I thought, was a wonderful game plan for us all to have a great time, but that's not what's going to happen. And be flexible enough to come up with another alternative. And the last thing is this, and I know you've heard me talk about this before if you've been here at all ever, so I really want to encourage you to keep this straight in your brain. You have control of yourself. You may not have control of every other thing going on around you. You, in fact, have control of yourself. Maybe you don't yet. Maybe you don't even believe that's possible. I respect that. I had lots of trouble with that when I was young. But I solemnly promise you I'm right about this. You can, in fact, have control over your own attitude and your own actions. Yeah, be frustrated a little while. Oh, I can't believe this happened. This is stupid. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. You can do that for a few minutes. But then get a grip. Okay, so now this is what I got, and this is what I've got to deal with. So me being cranky and spitting and sputtering, that's not going to do anything. So I'm going to get a hold of that. And then I'm going to take some kind of action, whatever that action may be, to help this out. Whether that's change my kids' clothes or call up my mom and dad, go to the emergency room at the other place, whatever that involves, I'm going to have to go about this differently. So I am. And yeah, I can do this with a really lousy attitude and make myself and every other person all around me just as miserable as I want. I can do that. I can. I know how. And I promise, so do you. Or I can look at this with some perspective and say, yep, this is not ideal. This is not what I planned for, but this is what I've got right here. And so I'm going to handle this. And in spite of it all, we're still going to have a pretty good time. We're going to manage this, okay? And I'm going to take actions to see to it that those around me, especially my kids, can still have a good day. And that I'm going to resolve the problem, the issue, whatever it was that frustrated me. So I'm going to talk to you really seriously. Let's talk about the one place I know where I hear people constantly talk about being frustrated. And that is driving. And don't worry, I can still get pretty frustrated occasionally when I'm driving. But let's be serious. You have to get from point A to point B. And you most likely don't own a horse. And probably very few of you own a helicopter. So guess what? You're going to get in your car and you're going to have to drive. Oh, and very seldom, unlike in a Hollywood movie where they clear the streets so that car can go careening down the road, there are going to be other drivers on the street with you. And you know what? You're going to have to hack that. So realistic expectations are, I need to go from point A to point B, and there will be other drivers on the street. Okay, I'm probably going to experience some frustration. Whether it's a whole bunch of bicyclists going 8 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. That's what happened to me today on the way to work, incidentally. Oh dear. Or a little old lady who wants to drive 25 in a 50. Yes, that's probably one of my least favorite ones, I admit. Or someone who turns right in front of you. You got to slam on your brakes to avoid hitting them, and then 3 blocks later, they're going to turn in. I mean, they couldn't have waited 10 seconds for you to proceed down the road, and then, yeah, nope, they couldn't. So you just know ahead of time. Yep, sometimes driving is a frustrating thing. So do what you need to do. Have a great conversation with your kids. Turn on the radio, like we've talked about before. Spell, do math, do something in the car that takes your mind off of all these extraordinarily irritating persons who might lead you to be frustrated. Just know ahead of time, okay, this is a place where I can really experience a lot of frustration. And let me tell you, it is not good for your body. Cortisol and adrenaline flooding through you when you're all, yeah, it's not healthy. It really isn't healthy for your mind because when you get so focused on that thing, it pulls your attention off of every other thing that, frankly, does still need your attention. So don't succumb. Plan ahead. I'm going to be on the road. There are going to be people that are going to drive me crazy. I'm going to give myself an extra 10 minutes. And if by some crazy event I'm still 10 minutes late, okay, that's what happened. And I'm not saying you can't voice it. I'm not saying you can't admit it. Just don't park there in the frustration zone. Life definitely has frustrations. No kidding. Do your best to handle them. Handle them in a productive way. And honestly, at the end of a really frustrating day, do something nice for yourself. Because, oh my word, sometimes we just need a couple of minutes of plain old nice. I don't care if that's a bubble bath or a good book or somebody to rub your feet, but do something nice for yourself at the end of a really frustrating day. Thank you for being with me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. I will look forward to seeing you again soon.